Hey everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin, and this is Leafs in 7, where every Monday we talk about the last 7 days of Leafs hockey and Leafs news in about 7 minutes. Last week, the Toronto Maple Leafs played 3 games, those being against Carolina, Calgary, and Vancouver. And I predicted that they would go 2-1 in that stretch, winning against Vancouver and pulling out a win against one of Calgary and Carolina. The Leafs did only go 1-2 in this week, and the team that I think that most people were thinking was most likely to lose to was Carolina, and that's the one team that we were able to beat in the week. Hopping into this game, this was a high-flying, competitive, tight, really exciting game, probably the most exciting game to watch so far in the 2022 season. Two teams that are competitive, fast, have a lot of skill, great goaltending between Campbell and Anderson. So what could go wrong? Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs start out slow in this game and have to climb back, but ultimately they are able to do so. Mitch Marner knots 2 goals, including the overtime winner, and the Toronto Maple Leafs pull out a win. The overwhelming story coming out of this game, though, was not the win. That was secondary. The focus was Austin Matthews. Is he going to be okay? At the very end of the third period, Austin Matthews takes a spill, knocks his head into a player's knee, very, very similar to that of the John Tavares situation. Obviously, less extreme, less gruesome, didn't require any stretch or anything like that, but it did bring back a lot of PTSD and memories from that moment, and we just wanted Austin Matthews to be okay. Fortunately enough for the Leafs, while Austin Matthews did leave that game, he was fine. He came in the next day, had a rest day, but did some tests. Turns out he didn't have any post-concussion symptoms, so he was able to play throughout the rest of the week. The Leafs then go into Calgary and play a team that's very, very difficult to score against, but they came out flying. The Leafs looked so good getting shots on goal, which is the best thing, in my opinion, to do against a team that's red hot defensively. Mitch Marner himself had, I think, 7 shots in the first period and 10 or 12 by the end of the game. It was crazy. Our shorthanded unit was significantly better than the Calgary power play, and the Leafs were able to capitalize getting on Calgary pretty early, but then over about a 3-minute stretch, they just blew the entire game. Calgary gets a few quick goals, gets the lead, and from that point on, while the Toronto Maple Leafs were able to climb back and again continue to put the puck on net, I think they had over 50 shots by the time that this game was done. Calgary had done their damage. Jack Campbell did not look great, but Jacob Markstrom did, and well, there you go. The Leafs are losing this one 5-2. And the big storyline out of this one was, are the Leafs too soft? Calgary came into this game knowing Toronto's weakness, and that is physicality. And they took advantage of it. They really set the tone, laying some huge hits. Zadorov did a really good job, I thought, of being a very physical presence and getting under the Leafs' skin, including a massive hit against Ondrej Kase, who did leave this game, but fortunately enough, again, like Austin Matthews, didn't face any post-concussion symptoms, so did come back the next game, but a huge hit. He was very physical, so was the rest of the team. Michael Backlund, I thought, was very physical. And they set the tone, and the Toronto Maple Leafs were not able to respond. People online after this game were saying that the Toronto Maple Leafs are not built to play a competitive physical style of hockey. And as people pointed out, that is what you would expect in the playoffs. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that this team has not lived up to their physical side of play and not retaliated enough. But that doesn't mean that they're incapable of it. I think that they've got players on this team like Jake Muzzin, like Wayne Simmons. They could call on Ritchie or Clifford. They've got pieces that can be physical. I think this is a coaching style. And to that point, I do part of this loss on Sheldon Keefe because I think he sets the tone. He's very clear in his post-game interviews that he doesn't think that the physicality is what lost the team the game. He doesn't really believe in that style of hockey. But I think that if that's the tone that the other team is setting, you have to be able to defend yourself and respond to some extent, and there was absolutely none of it. Again, I don't think that the Leafs are just incapable of it. I think that they've been coached not to retaliate and just focus on their speed and skill, and usually maybe they come back in a game and are able to squeak out a win, but in this case, they just weren't. It results in a loss, and I remember a conversation just a few years ago where people were asking if the Toronto Maple Leafs were dirty, a dirty team, if you could believe it, because how physical they were playing. But then again, that team didn't go any further than the current roster. So I don't really have a solution for it. It's just something to keep an eye on as we lead into the playoffs. Can the Leafs sustain their talent and their style of play during a physical game of hockey? Well, in the last game of this week against Vancouver, the Leafs continue to just absolutely dominate. And this one wasn't as physical as the Calgary game, but The Toronto Maple Leafs just wiped the floor with the Vancouver Canucks. However, they gave up an early 2-0 lead. Peter Mrazek is in net for this one. I don't think either of those first two goals were Mrazek's fault. Couldn't really do anything on it. The Leafs just continue to pepper Thatcher Demko, who played great, but they claw back, get a 2-2 tie, and then ultimately lose the game 3-2. This game is one that I'm not concerned about whatsoever. The Leafs, like I said, just absolutely dominated Vancouver, dominated the shots, dominated the zone time. You win that game so much more often than you lose. That's just a game that I chalk it up as a loss that you're just bound to get throughout the regular season, but nothing to be concerned of. In other news, it did come out that Nick Ritchie is being actively shopped by the Toronto Maple Leafs. There is some concern in there of mine. I do think that if you're looking at moving Nick Ritchie, especially if it's a single deal, just Nick Ritchie out, you're paying a price to have a team take on that contract, similar to the likes of what we did for Patrick Marleau when we sent him to Carolina and a first-round draft pick. That's not something I want to see whatsoever. If you're going to move Nick Ritchie, I think that's a part of a package deal. Maybe you add a sweetener in that, but you got to be getting extra pieces coming back. And on a very positive side, it looks like the Ontario government is making moves towards bringing fans back into the building. I believe February 17th will be back at 50% capacity, earlier than anticipated. And by March 1st, we'll be at full capacity, which makes me very, very happy. I want to go to more games. I want more games with fans. Definitely by the time that we go into a stretch leading into the playoffs, we need fans in the building. It's been embarrassing so far. So to have this happen, very, very good. Looking at next week, the Toronto Maple Leafs play 3 games: Seattle, Pittsburgh, St. Louis. Like I said, Pittsburgh and St. Louis, we will have some more fans in the building, so that'll be very good to see from a home ice perspective. But first game in Seattle, I'm excited to see what they'll do there tonight. It's a later game. My prediction here, I think, again, 2-1. I think Seattle's a game that you definitely need to win, especially coming off of the losses against Calgary and Vancouver. Pittsburgh is always such a tough team to play against, but Toronto usually does a decent job against them. St. Louis is, again, a tough opponent, but between Pittsburgh and St. Louis, I think that the Leafs are able to beat one of those two. So there you have it. That is Leafs in 7. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think over the last week of Leafs hockey? Click like, subscribe, almost at 250 subscribers, so let's get there soon, and I'll see you in the next one.